Hey guys, welcome to the channel. What is going on? And as you all might know by now, NHL 20 is coming out tomorrow, and I have it here on EA Access for a limited time, so I do want to go through my list of the top 10 most fun teams to use for a franchise in NHL 20. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Make sure you smash that like button if you're into NHL 20 content. Make sure that you subscribe if you're new to the channel and this is the first video you are seeing. Plenty more NHL 20 content as well as other content coming on the channel all day, every day here on Franchise Gaming. So, I'm going to do this list in alphabetical order, and the first team that I've chosen to put on it is the Arizona Coyotes. Now, the reason why I put the Coyotes on here is, as you can see, their three best players are all older players. Now, Ekman Larsson's not old, but he's older. You do have Clayton Keller to build around at 21 years old, as well as Nick Schmaltz. You also get Christian Dvorak, and you get Jacob Chychrun, I believe that's how you say it. And as you can see, their goalie is Antti Ranta, the former backup for the Rangers not that long ago. He's only 30. I mean, goalies can last a while, and he is an 85 overall. So both of these goalies, even when you need to give Ranta a rest and you put in Kuemper, it's not really that much of a drop-off. That's actually really good to have. So goalies should be somewhat stable, albeit not amazing. But you do get all of these guys. Now, Keller, you got to watch because he's only got 1 year left on his contract, and you got to keep him. But a lot of these other guys are signed in and locked, and that's kind of good to see. So, not a bad team to start a franchise with. Next team in alphabetical order that I've gone with is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, the reason I've done this is, as you can see, their two best players are both young, elite defensemen, and that is strong to have in front of an 80 overall 25-year-old goalie. Now, he's got some room to possibly grow as he's only 25 years old, but he is only an 80. And if you have to use the backup, he's only a 75. So goaltending, not the greatest, but you do get two very strong defensemen in there, as well as Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is an elite center and only 21 years of age. So they do have some pieces here. The rest of the pieces are not exactly always young, but they are other line pieces that you can use, 30-year-olds that you have to kind of maybe use for a little while and then find new players to replace them. The next team that I'm going with in alphabetical order is the Detroit Red Wings. The reason I'm going with them is their best player is Dylan Larkin. He is an elite center, and he's only 23. Now, Anthony Mantha is also elite potential as well. He's 25 years old. You have Tyler Bertuzzi, who is 24 years of age, and he is a nice young piece as well. You also get two nice young defensemen in Cholowski and Hronik. So you definitely want to use those guys to their full potential. Jimmy Howard is getting very old. He's only a fringe starter now. And they say Jonathan Bernier is a starter. So, but between these two guys, there's not too much of a drop-off when you have to use one versus the other. They're just not either of them very excellent. So by bringing these young pieces along on defense, and possibly even Zadina here, who you definitely want to bring along as he could be an elite right winger for you, definitely want to move some of these guys along, and you could end up with a dynasty. The next team that I'm going to go with here is the Florida Panthers. Now, I've chosen to do that. This is the only team that I've chosen that has a 90 overall on it. And that is because he is the one you're going to want to build around. Alexander Barkov, you definitely want to use him. Jonathan Huberdeau is going to be fun to use, as well as Aaron Ekblad, who is a strong elite defenseman. Definitely guys that you're going to want to use on this roster, but there's no teenagers. As you can see, the teenagers are missing from this team that most of the other teams have had. You do, however, get 2 90 players because you also get Sergei Bobrovsky, who is a very good goalie. And he's 31 years of age, though, but he is an elite goaltender. Now, the problem, though, and the reason why this didn't deter me from picking them on the list, is that Montembault is a 70. Now, the man has plenty of room to grow because he's only 22, but currently, he's a 70 overall. So when Bobrovsky can't play, you've got a weak goaltender in net. So you definitely have to use these guys to score some points. Okay, so now we move along to the next team that I have chosen, and that is the New Jersey Devils. Now, the New Jersey Devils here are very interesting because their top players aren't the youngest, but they're not that old. Like, Subban's not that old, Taylor Hall's not that old, but you do get Butcher at defenseman, you get Hischier at center, and you get the new number 1 overall draft pick in Jack Hughes, which has to make it extremely fun to use. Jesper Bratt is also fun. So you get those players, and as far as goalies are concerned, Schneider, he's an elite goaltender, but he's getting very, very, very old. And you have Mackenzie Blackwood, who's only 22, and you can bring him along as well, and not a lot of drop-off between the two goalies, which is a good thing. Devils could be a fun team to use. Now, call it New York bias, call it Metropolitan Bias, whatever you want to call it, but the Islanders also make this list. And the reason that they do is if you take a look here, Barzal, nice, young, elite player, best player on the team, and you definitely want to bring him along. You have Leddy, you have Eberle, and they're elite potentials, but they are on the other side of the hill at this point. You have Pulock, who is 24 years old, and something else to build around, as well as Beauvillier. But a lot of old players on this team. Their window has kind of passed as far as playoffs are concerned. These guys, Clutterbuck, Lag, Komarov, Boychuk, Brassard, these guys just aren't going to get it done anymore. And you have to decide if they're going to be on a team that wins a cup for you. Now, Varlamov is 31 years old, and he's an 85 overall. You get Grice, who is an 83, so again, not much of a drop-off between starter and backup, which is good. But again, none of them are incredibly great. Again, call it New York bias if you want to, but my favorite team, the New York Rangers, is also on this list, and there's plenty of reasons why. One is this might be the last year where you actually get to use Lundqvist, who will be above an 85. He's 37 years old. You get a nice young goaltender to bring along in Alexander Georgiev, and you're going to need to bring him along because Lundqvist is going to start to decline heavily here. He's only got 2 years left on his contract, so maybe NHL 21 will be the last year to use him when his contract's going to be up, but the King is almost done in New York, as you can tell. Now, the big signing here, Panarin, is an elite left winger, and he's 27 years old. That's something to definitely work with. Jacob Trouba was brought in by the Rangers via trade, and he's only 25 years old, and he's the second best player. Zibanejad, Brady Shea, Chris Kreider, Buchnevich. Look at all these guys. None of them are past 28 years old right now. Philip Chytil, Ryan Strome, Namastenkov, D'Angelo, Jesper Foss. Nobody, until you get to Mark Stahl, is above the age of 28. So a lot of youth on this team, even lower. You get a lot of youth on this team, and that is definitely got to be fun to use. You don't have to make a lot of trades. You just have to do a lot of development here. Now, moving on, the Ottawa Senators are also going to make the list, and that is because you have Thomas Chabot, who is 22 years old, an elite defenseman, very good defenseman. You also have a 20-year-old elite left winger in Brady Tkachuk, and you get a 22-year-old in Colin White at center. to go behind Tierney, who's only 25. Now, these players aren't high in overall, but at least they have some youth behind them. Again, kind of like the Rangers, except they have Anisimov, former Ranger, who's 31 years old. They have Bobby Ryan, who's 32 years old. And they have Hainsey in defense, who is 38 years old. But a lot of these guys, there are some old guys in there, even Marion Gaborik, former Ranger. But there's a lot of youth. Batherson, LaJoy, a lot of guys that can be used here, and they're goalies. They have Craig Anderson, he's 38 years old, and they have Nilsson, so not great to really build up and take over Anderson's spot, but again, not a huge drop-off in goaltending, but they're not really a good goalie team, and none of their scorers are that high in overall either, so it's fun to try and develop and bring in some more talent as well through free agency. Now we move along to the next team, and that is going to be the not Vancouver. My bad. Now we move along to the next team, and that's going to be the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, Vancouver was very close to being on the list, but I chose the Vegas Golden Knights kind of over them for kind of the last team that I chose, and that is because the Vegas Golden Knights surprisingly made the Cup their first season as a team. Marc-Andre Fleury is 34 years old. He's still an elite goaltender. He's an 87 overall. And then you have Malcolm Subban. That's right, Mr. Subban. Subban's, I guess, brother or something like that, who is 25 years old and 81. So that's actually not bad. That's very, very interesting to have him on the squad as well. And you get an elite right winger as well as an elite center in William Karlsson there. You get Alex Tuch, who's 23 years old. You get Shea Theodore, who's 24 years old. But there are a mix of old and young talent here that you have to kind of shape if you want to continue the window that the Vegas Golden Knights have had. And they didn't have a good season last year, a year removed from making the Stanley Cup. So the final team that makes this list is obviously not the Washington Capitals, but it is the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the Winnipeg Jets have had a pretty talented team over the last couple of years, but they have not really formed that into any type of real winning as far as going deep into the playoffs. Now, as you can see, their first 5 players here are all elite potential players. As a matter of fact, 6 of their first 7 players are elite potential players, and 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are under 25. And one of them's 26. So they have a lot of young, really elite top-level talent here. There are some old beans on the squad, though. And if you look at goalies, Hellebuyck, probably the best one of any team on this list to continue with because he is considered an elite goaltender at an 87 overall, and he's only 26. So you definitely have some time with him. And to build a contender, bring in the pieces that are needed on this team to get them over the hump and let them beat the Western Conference's top teams. I mean, that is definitely what you got to go after. And it's been tough for them, and it's going to be fun if you take that team. I think any of those 10 teams are going to be fun. What do you guys think, all you NHL fans out there? What team do you think out of the top 10 that I have chosen, what team do you think is the best? What 10 teams would you pick to put on a list like this to rebuild in an NHL 20 franchise? That's all I have for you guys today. Please go ahead and drop a like on this video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. There is plenty more NHL 20 content as well as plenty of other sports games here on Franchise Gaming, as it is all franchise content all day, every day here on Franchise Gaming. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you all next time.